Well, hello again. I'll tell you what. Let's say we start out this video with an input that was offered up by one of our good subscribers, George Chambliss. And George came up with a great idea. You know, I've always said, hey, look, if one of you all come up with an idea and I research it and I find out that it is in fact a good idea, I will implement it. You know, if need be. Sometimes you don't need to. But this was a case where I did need to. And this is what he came up with. I never heard of it. I've heard of disconnects, but not this particular kind on the battery. And I didn't even know this thing existed. He said the one with the big green nub. Well, I contacted Brendan and I said, what do you think of that idea? I think it's a good idea. He said, well, yeah, of course. I've got one on my truck. Well, that automatically sold me right there. You know, if he's had it, he said he's had it for a long time. And so that tells me if he's had it on his truck for a long time, it's good. Good idea by George, good idea by Brendan. He said, sure, go for it. So anyway, well, one thing he did tell me, see this gold thing right here, the only thing I added to it is this washer. Now this is supposed to be a, I think it's brass coated alloy of some kind. It's a lot harder than this stuff here. Here's the difference. And of course I don't know what that alloy is. Could be Chinese melted down Coke machines from the United States or something. I don't know. I just don't trust anything anymore. So what is that? Well, it's a terminal, battery terminal disconnect switch. Well, how's it work? Well, as you can see, you go ahead and put it on like a normal battery connector. You can put it on the negative or you can put it on the positive. Some guys put them on both, from what I understand. They put one on each terminal. And then you go ahead and hook up your battery cable to the rear. Now, there's a little trick with this Brendan warned me about. I'm going to tell you about it too. He said that this, let me get in the position now, this is pretty cool. I want you to know about it. See that big gold thing there that the battery cable fits around? He said to make sure that when you tighten up the battery cable on that gold thing, that you put a wrench both on the top and the bottom when you tighten it. Don't just tighten it with one, because what it does is it'll twist it, I guess, this way, and it'll break that thing right off the back of that thing. You know, and he said he's on his second one, and the reason why was this thing broke off, so he made that mistake. And happens to the best of us, you know. So wrench top and bottom, go ahead and tighten it down until she's nice and snug, so you're back in business on your cable. Now, first of all, why do I need one of these? And how does it work? Well, I need one of them because, and I do need one of them because there's a lot of wires dangling underneath this car. The wire for this little light indicator alone is underneath there, just hanging. I think one of the headlights wires is hanging. There's no telling what we're going to find under the dash. And I don't want to have to keep coming out here putting the battery cable on, taking it off, putting it on, taking it off. After a while, it'll just ruin the cable and I'll have to go down and buy a new one. Well, this keeps us from having to do all that. All we have to do now, anytime we want to shut down the battery, is take this knob, and just like George said, the one that recommended it, he said, you want the one with the big green knob. And that's what I got. Got it at Walmart, $6. $6, saved me all kinds of problems. All you got to do is turn it to the left. It says right on there, there's an arrow. Let me zero in there. See, it says off to the left, on to the right. Well, I'm not sure how far you got to untwist this thing, but I don't think it's very far. You just give it a couple of turns like that. That's it. The battery's disconnected. When you want to go back to when you want to put juice to the system, you turn it to the right, snug it down. You're back in business. Now, Brendan and I are going to be doing a lot of troubleshooting on this to find out if in fact I'm getting a current draw from somewhere in the car. I don't know if I am or not. I may not be getting any. We're going to check it out, and this is going to help us do it. Just a little recommendation. Thanks to George, and I appreciate George. You're a fine feller. Now on to bigger and better things. Some of you have been on my back about the idle speed of the engine. Like I didn't know that. I knew it was idling fast. I was just happy to have the stupid thing working, okay, and then the water not gushing out all over the floor. You know. Yes, it idles fast. So I came out and I did a little check-in. I did a little this, I did a little that. And I think it might have been that this dash pot was screwed too far forward. So I brought it back down, and this rod may have not been in the right position, so I screwed it out a little bit, which when the gas pedal linkage comes this way, it shoves it that way and idles it down. I don't know if that doesn't work. Now the step down lever on the other side is working fine. The choke step down lever, so that's working okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and crank it up, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to call it a day because it's late at night, or getting late at night. And we'll just have to work on it tomorrow or the next day. It's still pretty hot down here, guys. Well, how's that? A lot slower, huh? I've still got to work on it a little bit, and I've got a vacuum gauge, and I'm going to start working the vacuum gauge with the engine. I'll show everybody how to do that. So that's it. I like it because it has a great big gauge. I like that, so I can see it better. It's a Harbor Freight jobby. Pittsburgh. Comes with the hose, a bunch of connectors. It was almost a giveaway price. So I figured, what the heck, let's give it a try. Well, she's rumbling pretty good, but I still have to adjust the air-fuel mixture screws on the carburetor, which we will do, you know, once we hook up the vacuum gauge. Still sounds pretty cool. But what you're listening to is holes in the mufflers. Alright, let's test out our little thing here. I'm getting ready to go in the house. I want to make sure it's going to actually shut off the power to the car. By the way, you guys with new cars, you know, with those computers, you can't, I don't think you can use one of these, because every time you shut it off, you're going to screw up your computer because the power is going to go out from the computer. So this is strictly for classic cars I'm talking about, okay? The old types that didn't have all that computer crap. Alright, now we have a light inside the car. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew that green knob. Let's see if it's going to disconnect the battery. This is the big test. There it goes. Power's gone. Okay? So now I can go ahead and safely let it set here. Take it maybe another quarter of a turn or so, and it'll be good. We finally got our seat belts in, our nice new seat belts. Since I'm going to have a black carpet in the car, you got a white interior, black carpet. I decided to go with black seat belts, 60-inch seat belts, which is the standard. You know, it's pretty big unless you're really a big guy. They do have larger ones, but 60 inches is about right. And you also have a choice of buckles. I went with the silver buckle because I just thought it was cool. And I ordered them from a place called Seatbelt Planet, which is located out in Oklahoma City. Well, you know, quite a bit of time went by, and I didn't, you know, I got a notification that they had got my order. But that was it. They said they would give me an update when it was shipped. Well, you know what, 8 or 10 days went by, and I got no notice of it being shipped. So I called him up. And the guy says, I don't know, you should have had those things shipped out a long time ago. I'm really having problems with online ordering all of a sudden. It's not the COVID virus either. It's people not doing things right. I don't get it. Anyway, he called me back later that afternoon. He said, well, you know, we didn't have the parts. We didn't have this. We didn't have that. And, you know, I don't want to hear that. I'm the customer. I paid for it in advance. I don't want to hear their part problems. I don't want to hear about all that stuff. What I want to hear is it'll be shipped out in 3 to 4 days. We made a boo-boo. We're sorry. I'd say fine. You know, people make mistakes. They did, in fact, ship it out 3 to 4 days. It arrived today. I'm happy. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if Seatbelt Planet will just lay off the excuses and just come up and say, hey, look, you know, we forgot you, or what it is, you get an order number, and then you get a manufacturing number. Well, he couldn't find the manufacturing number on the computer. You know? No. You know, it's supposed to be a professional outfit. You find everything on the computer, okay? I also ordered a couple of sleeves. There's 2 sleeves per seat belt, which will hold it up on each side of the bucket seat. And they weren't cheap. You know, they were cheaper than everybody else, I'll tell you that. And they had good comments on it. So, yeah, we got them. And I guess I'm a happy camper at this point. Seatbeltplanet.com, and they have all different colors, best prices I could find. One other thing, I'm glad I kept the seatbelt bolts to hold them in. These did not come with bolts. I didn't expect them to. So I kept the 2 bolts on each side, and the washers. I think I kept the washers. They're thick washers, but if I didn't, no problem. I know where I can get them. Let's take a little closer look at this vacuum gauge. It's also a fuel pump pressure gauge. The fuel pump pressure is up here. See, it says fuel pump pressure. It's a multi-gauge compound meter, they call it, but it's, you know, multi-scale. Now the manifold pressure, the vacuum pressure is on this inside scale, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. And it goes up to, I think it's 22 or something like that. 19.5 they claim is optimum. And remember, it's the inside scale. It says right there, if you look close enough, you can see the word vacuum right there. Okay? So that's the scale we'll be looking at on the vacuum side of the house. Later on, I plan to go ahead and test the fuel pump pressure, but not now. We're going to do that later. We got other things, you know, more irons in the fire to burn first. So let's see what we've got in connectors and see where we can hook this thing up. One thing to remember before we begin all this crap, I have all of the vacuum lines disconnected except for the essential ones. So once we set the vacuum, according to the gauge, you know, as close to 19.5 as we can with our adjustments on the carburetor, and then eventually when we hook up all the vacuum lines, where they go here, there, and everywhere, that's going to change everything. So I'll have to come back and do it again. If I only get half of them hooked up and I want to drive the car somewhere, I'm going to have to check the vacuum again. And you continually do that until you get it where all the vacuum lines that you're going to need are hooked up and the carburetor's, you know, tuned to where it's supposed to be and the engine's running and idling the way it's supposed to. One more thing about this vacuum, I keep coming back because there's a lot of little things that keep triggering my memory after I shut the camera off. Some people, after they go ahead and adjust your carburetor, they'll come back and use the distributor as well, back and forth, to, you know, increase and fine-tune the vacuum coming out of the intake manifold. You want to hook up your line as close to the intake manifold as you can, as close to the carburetor as you can, and I'm going to show you where that part is in a minute on our car. But you know, I'm not going to use the distributor to try to adjust the vacuum. I've got a timing light, and we're going to just use the timing light like I always have done in the past. I'm just not too keen on that. That distributor may be a little weak. Matter of fact, I'm almost certain I need another vacuum advance. That's that silver thing right there. I'll probably pick one up at a later date. It won't be any trouble to put one on. They're a breeze to change. So let me show you where, at least we're going to, right now, where we're going to hook up that vacuum gauge. On this carburetor, there was a large vacuum port right here that was wide open. There was nothing covering it or anything. You know, that was the first thing I noticed, and I talked about it with Brennan. I said, why was that thing unplugged or uncovered or whatever? He said, I have no idea. He said, that's not supposed to be like that. Well, lucky me, I found a rubber cap that I just slipped right over there, and it works perfectly. I'll have to get a hold of it with a pair of needle nose and pull it off. But right there, in my mind, is the ideal place to hook our vacuum gauge, right there, real close to the intake manifold at the base of the carburetor. Now comes the obvious question: why do we care about the vacuum level in an engine? And it's measured in what they call inches /Hg, which is nothing more than an inch of mercury. Hg stands for pressure. You have to look it up on the internet. It's the amount of pressure required to move mercury 1 inches. The downward pressure 1 inches. Okay, that's all I know about. That's all I care about. Don't care about anything else. I've got a gauge to tell me what I need to know. But if you're interested in all that stuff, look it up. You know, it's on YouTube. It's on. Just ask for Surrey in your cell phone. They'll get you to a website. Anyway, every engine has a certain amount of vacuum that it provides just because it's running. It's a sucking motion, sucking down, 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 down. And the engineers took advantage of that to run hoses here, there, and everywhere. Some cars are just unbelievable. There's a million vacuum hoses. It's just astonishing how many. They were able to run this item and this item and this item using the vacuum produced by the engine, the sucking of the engine. In our case, we have the brake booster with that big hose right there. We've got a bunch of hoses running over here to operate that thing down in there, to operate our door locks. No, to operate the, that's an air conditioning reserve tank. The door lock tank goes up here, and other cars have it's just all kinds of lines. So that's so if that vacuum level is not right, then none of that stuff's going to work. And the basic bottom line is, once you get the vacuum set at that whatever's required by the engine, usually between, I don't know, 17 to 21, 22, somewhere in that area there, preferably up around 19.5, which is what they called for with the gauge I already mentioned. Once you get that thing balanced out right by adjusting your idle screws here and all that jazz, your engine should be pretty much, you know, it's not going to be jumping around and rocking unless you got a problem. It'll be nice and smoothly run, and that's what we're after. We're already pretty smooth here, and I've got the idle down that I mentioned earlier in the video. I'll show you what I did with that. But it's important that you know, have I ever done a vacuum? No, I never did a vacuum test on an engine in my entire life. I just went ahead and tuned it by ear and used an RPM, you know, a tachometer or an RPM meter, and I adjusted the dwell on the dwell angle on the distributor, you know, that sort of thing. I set the idle speed, I set the fast idle kick down thing there, the choke kick down rod, things like that. And everything always worked well for me. At least I thought I did. It probably didn't. But back in those days, who cared? The engine runs good, sounds good, take off and go. My girl's waiting for a date. Now the hose that comes with this gauge, of course, is not the right size, you know, to plug into the base of the carburetor. No, that would be too easy. We can't have any of that. So fortunately, I did order all this vacuum line, and the 7/32 size is what I'm going to be using. I've already got it connected to the base of the carburetor. I'm going to go ahead and bring it out to about, somewhere in there, right here. I'm going to lop that baby off. It's about 10:40 Thursday morning, and it won't be long. Hurricane Laura will be coming to visit us. If it goes as tracked, we're going to be right. It's coming right from my garage. I don't like that. I do not like that. You just let it mess with my garage and see what happens. A steady rain, and the wind is beginning to pick up, which is expected, but no big deal so far. As long as it stays away from Pearline. It's almost 6 o'clock at night, and the rain has picked up, but the wind seems to just either stay the same or died down. I don't know, it's beginning to look better and better, but we're still under a watch on this mess until 7 in the morning. Well, she's beginning to kick in now. Well, it's all over for us. You know, those poor folks down in Louisiana, they're just starting. Gonna have to put everything back together, but we got real lucky. We dodged a bullet. All we got was a pretty good wind, a bunch of rain. That's about it. Nothing to complain about, you know. I've seen thunderstorms go through here worse than that. All right, with the idle down, she sounds a whole lot better. I'm still having to finicky, you know, with it. It wants to go up a little bit, come down a little bit, but it hasn't been run in many years, so but it still sounds good, huh? We've got a headlight, at least one, and a very weak one over here. We do have a parking light and no parking light. Well, we're halfway there. Look at this one here. Just barely lit down in there. Oh boy, we got headlight problems for sure. We'll work on that way later after we get done with the ride. The old Thunderbird is warning me of events to come. It ran out of gas. So We were bleeding the brakes. I think we've got the brakes all bled, front and rear. I know the front ones are good. The back ones, we're not, you know, exactly, you know, we don't have that old warm and fuzzy, you know, but I feel pretty good about it. We're going to let it set for a while. Let me go ahead and unhook our battery. Make sure everything's cool. And I guess I'll have to go get some gas. Anyway, until next time, when I hope, I'm not coming back with the next video until this car is ready to take down the road. So if it turns out to be 45 days and I still haven't posted a video, you're going to know. You're going to say, well, apparently he can't get it ready to go down the road. I'm not going to, the next video will be the end. Until next time, this is John.